Well, we have a lot of fun talking about your team because you guys are in first place. You're 11-9, and you know what?
Right.
That's really all that matters. But obviously, some of the numbers would indicate otherwise. But the most important number is that 11. So I guess my first question to you is, how do you feel you guys are playing right now? And last night obviously was not a great game, but overall, how do you think you guys are playing through 20 games this year?
I think some things have gone well, but I don't disagree with you. I think I don't think it'll hold up if we continue to play like this for 6 months or for another 5 months. I think the plus side is that, like you mentioned, we are in first place despite that.
Do you think you look at the lineups that you've had to put together due to injuries, and you're sitting there saying, how the hell are we doing this? Is it smoke and mirrors? I mean, you know, a Hicks comes up and does well. A Ducey comes up. I mean, guys that you didn't count on.
Well, I think, you know, maybe we're just catching lightning in a bottle, quite frankly. You know, Hicks comes up, he's swinging the bat well. Ducey, same thing. Filling in for guys like J.D. Martinez and Miguel Cabrera, who you expect to kind of be offensive forces for the vast majority of the season. And we just need them to fill in for a short time frame. And if we can catch lightning in the bottle and they can do that for that short time frame, then, you know, that's how you end up winning some games.
Sticking to positivity, Justin Upton, as you know, got off to a horrendous start last year. It wasn't until the end of the season where he really started doing what you guys paid him to do. So far this year, he's been really, really good, hasn't he?
He's had good at-bats. He really has. He's been much more consistent, not swinging and missing the way he was early last year. You know, a lot of power hitters are going to strike out at times, but he's had very consistent at-bats, much better than a year ago. There's no question about that.
Talking to Brad Ausmus here, Tiger manager on 97 won the ticket. If you could, let's go through some of the injuries and update us as best you can. Jose Iglesias is eligible to come off the concussion list today. Do you expect to have him out there?
Yeah, I do. I expect to. We just got to go through the formality this morning of getting him cleared. With the concussion protocol, he has to actually officially be cleared. So, but I don't expect that to be a problem. I expect him to be activated.
Miggy, I know he's on the 10-day DL, so you can't get him back for a little bit. But do you anticipate when that 10 days ends, he'll be able to come back?
I do. I think he's going to be fine. He's progressed great. I talked to him again. I talk to him on a daily basis, and every single day he says he feels great. I don't see any reason he won't be back. I think he's eligible to play again on Tuesday. Would be the first day he's eligible to come back and be in the lineup. And I don't see a reason, unless something happens between now and then, that he wouldn't be.
The hot button, as far as Tiger fans, seems to still obviously be the bullpen, and in particular about Anibal Sanchez. We were talking earlier today. And question why he pitched last night instead of Tuesday night, when you had the big lead Tuesday night.
Well, you got to find times to pitch a guy. You pitch him when you think you can. Really, Tuesday night, the case was wanting to get Shane Green and Kyle Ryan into games because they hadn't pitched much lately. And you got to try and keep them fresh. You got to get them out there facing hitters once in a while. And that was the main reason that those guys were brought in on Tuesday. The case yesterday is he's got to pitch. He's part of our bullpen. I brought Shane Green in earlier in the fifth to try and keep the game close, keep it where it's at. They end up scoring another run on the bases loaded walk. And I don't want to use Kyle Ryan again because he threw 29 pitches the day before. I don't want to use Joe Jimenez. He threw 22 pitches the day before. I don't want to use either of the Wilsons or Frankie Rodriguez with being down 4 runs at that point. And Sanchez got to pitch. He's in our bullpen. He's got to pitch, and we're hoping we could get us through the rest of the game and keep those guys fresh for today in case we need them today.
Brad, I this is kind of a weird question to ask, and I mean it with all due respect, but why is he in your bullpen at this point? It just seems like he just can't quite get guys out. He struggles with it. Is it? I know you can't get into the money of it, and I know you're not going to talk publicly about an issue with a guy, but to say you got to get him out there is not a real rah-rah reason to put a guy in the game.
Well, keep in mind, this guy pitched pretty well in spring training.
Right.
There was a lot of discussion coming out of spring training that he should be one of the 5 starters. That's how well he pitched. And, he got off to a rough start as a long man, but the truth is he has the ability to go long. He's the one guy who has the ability down there to probably go 4 or 5 innings. should something happen to our starter early in the game. And every bullpen needs a guy like that. And I know he didn't he struggled at time, but he also did some things last night I thought pretty well. He did get some strikeouts. He did throw strikes, which we've had trouble doing out of the bullpen at times. So you do need a guy like that in the bullpen.
So suffice to say, you feel more comfortable with using him in that situation as opposed to somebody like, let's say, Buck Farmer.
Yeah, and the truth is, Buck's best role to help the organization right now, and he doesn't want to hear it, is to be starting in AAA in case something actually does happen to one of our starters. Guys like Buck, Warwick Soppold, Chad Bell, those guys that are starting in Toledo, you need that depth because you're going to need those guys to start big league games at some point during the course of the season.
Brad Ausmus with us here on 97.1 The Ticket. Tigers and Mariners today at 1:10. I mentioned Iglesias and Cabrera. Also, real quick on J.D. Martinez. Any progress report on him?
Yeah, J.D.'s doing. I feel like he's finally turned the corner. He's run now. He ran for the first time last Friday. Ran again Monday, Tuesday. Yesterday he faced not in a game situation, but in a live batting practice situation. Faced live pitching. And now we're kind of playing it day to day just based on how he feels. If he comes in today and says he feels great, we could stick him into an extended spring training game. If he feels a little sore, we could just limit him to batting practice. It's basically on him how he feels and how much he thinks he could do.
And then once he's at that point, is there a timetable in your mind? Or if he goes and plays a couple games and looks like J.D., you can bring him right up?
Yeah, he probably needs anywhere, depending on the guy, 15 to 30 at-bats. But we can get those relatively quickly, especially in an extended spring training atmosphere where we can control it. He can lead off every single inning. He can get 9 at-bats in a game if need be. Now, he wouldn't play 9 innings in the field right off the bat. And he might even DH to start and then play the field. But we could get those at-bats relatively quickly as opposed to sticking him in on a rehab assignment going to Toledo where he only gets 3 at-bats. So we can kind of expedite the process.
How long before you guys sit there and really hope that Nelson Cruz retires?
Oh, I agree. He's hit us very well. There's no question. In the little over 3 years I've been here, he seems to hit us pretty well. And
even before you got here, he had those home runs for when he was with the Texas Rangers. Something else I'm curious about. You had the incident with the Twins with people try to call it a brawl. It wasn't a brawl. And the Pedroia Machado thing. Can you explain the code in baseball? Because we always debate that. What is acceptable?
Well, I think the first part of the code is pitchers try to protect their position players. If they feel like if a player on their team is being hit intentionally or generally hit above the shoulders, that in return there needs to be a message sent that, hey, we're not going to allow that to happen. Just as a general rule, I won't say always. But then in that return, you also never go above the shoulders. I think that probably, in a nutshell, is what the code is. And there's other parts of it. If you break some unwritten rule that isn't connected with being hit, like what would be deemed a dirty slide or something like that, that would fall under the same description. But again, it's always part of one of the unwritten rules of the rule is you stay below the shoulders.
Have you ever gotten into a brawl yourself with punches with you through?
Oh, have I been in a brawl? The biggest brawl I was ever in was as a Detroit Tiger. Was that
the one in Chicago?
Yeah, in Chicago in 2000. I was here for that. I was catching in that game.
Was that Robert Fick? Was that I forget who that was? Who got started?
Well, it was Dean.
Dean Palmer.
Dean Palmer, I think.
That's right.
Charged. He was hit by Jim Parquet, I think, the left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
And that was after Jeff Weaver had hit
Maglio, I think, right?
Carlos Lee, I think.
Carlos Lee.
And it was a melee, and there was blood on the field. There were people going nuts. It was. I've never been a part of a brawl even close to that one before or after.
Were you the peacemaker, or were you throwing haymakers?
I was trying to split guys out. Usually when there's a brawl, I keep my catching gear on. I look like riot police.
I thought about that the other day when McCann kept his mask on. I thought, smart move there. You got a mask on. You might as well keep it on.
I did. There's no question. I always did that. I left my now in the brawl in Chicago. We were hitting at the time, so I probably didn't have my gear. I might have my shin guards on only. But if I'm catching and there's someone charging the mound or a bench clearing, I always have my riot gear on.
The two things I remember about that brawl, one is Gibson was doing the game on TV, and he said, "Get it out of your system, boys." And also, I think Robert Fick was getting doused with beer, and he ended up giving the double bird to the fans of Comiskey as he was going off.
I wasn't listening to Gibby.
Yeah,
but I know he was doing the color for the team then, but I can attest to the fact that the Robert Fick part is true.
All right. Hey, Brad, thanks for the time. Good luck today, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, there he is, Brad Ausmus, Tiger manager, joining here on 96.